Oscars 2026 recap. Make sure you subscribe. Alright, folks, it's almost about to be 1 p.m. here, a little bit 18 hours after the 98th Oscars, which had just recap. Now, I was unable, if you have seen, I was not able, if you follow me on my YouTube post, I was unable to do a official final Oscar winner prediction video. And that was because throughout the past week, I had been suffering through a massive head cold. It was not that great at all. I mean, it just really wasn't the best experience. And unfortunately, because with how it got a little bit somewhat worse, a little bit over the last weekend it had, the weekend of the Writers Guild, which was I was planning to film my final predictions at the time and then try to release it on a Monday or Tuesday because I kind of do rely on views and the editing would have taken a lot of time. But now with me kind of feeling a little bit much more better than I was, even though I can't really smell as much, but it's not that clogged up my nose specifically, but yeah, to make that up for not me doing a final prediction video when I just did it on my community post on YouTube or through my final on the awards expert app, I decided just to do a recap video of my thoughts on the winners and the shows that on the show itself last night. And overall, for my prediction status, I did really well job here specifically. According to the awards expert app, I ended up getting, of course, a 20 out of 24, and that kind of technically counts because there is a reason to it, because of the most shocking thing that, of course, happened last night, of course, but obviously it's considered one of the most important nights. I would say, for me, the most important night of the first half of the year. No, the most important event of the first half of the year, and the second half of the year, that obviously is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is my main content specifically on the channel. But this is obviously the second one. So, yeah, so the Oscars happened last night, and what a way it is for one battle after another getting 6 wins. It was pretty expected, and then Sinners getting 14 wins, Frankenstein with 3, and then K-Pop Demon Hunters with 2, with the other winners, of course, being F1 the movie, Avatar Fire and Ash, The Singers, Two People Exchanging Saliva, The Girl Who Cried Pearls, All the Empty Rooms, Mr. Nobody Against Putin, Sentimental Value, Weapons, and Hamnet. And there is a lot of things to discuss about here, as well as, of course, the show itself a little bit. I never have done this before, my thoughts on the show, because a lot of the times they are not really that. But the show itself, although it only ran a little over 20 minutes, the pacing was pretty well put together, I would say. I would say I really did love the opening of Conan's weapons reference to his the chasing. I have not, just want to know, I've not seen any of these Oscar nominated movies, because I'll explain that a little bit when we get nearer to the end of the video. But yeah, with him doing a weapons chase thing, as doing the Amy Madigan makeup status, and then him going through all the, like, a lot of the big major movies from Picture Contenders to K-Pop Demon Hunters and stuff like that. It kind of reminds me of when the days when Billy Crystal hosted the ceremony, when he showed up in footages and some picture nominees. You can even say the same thing with James Franco and Anne Hathaway when they hosted the 2011 Oscars, but more specifically during the Crystal era. And I know Conan kind of did a little substance thing last year, but I think that kind of doing another joke of a horror movie, that take it 2 times 11, actually having actual kids chasing Conan, and then we saw it, of course, on the way and even live on the Oscar stage, and that was pretty fun. And there are some moments that are pretty good. There wasn't a lot of cringy moments. I will give Conan credit on that one. I loved his roast on Timothée Chalamet, what he said. That was pretty great. But obviously, let's get into the show itself in the order it was. So supporting actress, despite of the movie being the film's only nomination, Weapons managed to win for Amy Madigan. I mean, that was kind of shocking. My prediction was actually Wunmi Masako, after she won at BAFTA, and the fact that Madigan was not even nominated at BAFTA that kind of hurted her chance. I didn't really consider her immediately because, as I just said, Madigan was Weapons' only Best Picture was the only nomination for that film. And obviously the Actors Award happened during the middle of the final Oscar voting, but it looks like SAG kind of really pulled it off. And the thing is, she was the only one that was a previous nominee in that lineup. All the other four were first timers, so that's the thing. So I really am not a fan of how like the category order they have. It's kind of been the bland, simple way they have done it for the past few years, where they started with like I get it with an acting category, but like, do they always have to present the animated categories at the very early of the ceremony? Although I will credit Will Arnett as he was a great presenter in the animated category. That he just really shows his commitment to animation, especially how obviously the thing is how voice acting is technically the same thing as acting, and how animation obviously AI will not overpower animation. He was a fantastic presenter. And Channing, I get it why they had Will Arnett and Channing Tatum present, because they were in 2 movies this past year with Arnett and Is This Thing On, which he kind of mentioned, and Channing Tatum and Roofman. But animated feature does go to K-pop Demon Hunters, even though Zootopia 2 could have been on the outskirts, and maybe Arco after it won the César Award. I feel like that was kind of pretty confident K-pop Demon Hunters got. It got Sony Pictures Animation their second win, not technically Netflix's one, because obviously they did kind of mention Sony Pictures Animation. But yeah, Sony Pictures really should be kind of ashamed of themselves for already not putting into the big screen properly. So, yep, but now Netflix has a whole franchise in their hands. But yeah, supporting actress, yeah, I as I mentioned, I got that one wrong, but I also got best animated short wrong. I went with Butterfly. A lot of people were going with that or The Girl Who Cried Pearl. Some were saying retirement plan, which was actually my original prediction, actually, because it was the best reviewed one out of the 5. But I did switch it to Butterfly. I thought I had The Girl Who Cried Pearls at number 2 in the Awards Expert app, but I didn't. I had it at number 3. But it was between those 3 in general for that one. So yeah, the shorts are always not that easy to predict. You either get them all wrong, you get 2 right, 1 right, but you don't usually get all 3 correct. But that was kind of almost one. I did almost consider The Girl Who Cried Pearls originally, but I just felt like maybe I think the reviews itself probably is the reason I didn't go with it. And then after almost kind of a promotion of The Devil Wears Prada 2, even though Meryl Streep was not there, costume design and makeup and hairstyling obviously went to both for Frankenstein. That was not surprising. And then we get into the inaugural Best Casting Award, and oh boy, I think we can all agree this category was a bitch to predict, because no one did not know who was going to win this one. He has the BAFTA screwed that over because they gave it to the British movie, and it does kind of also show that the voters did know the difference between casting and ensemble, because I was originally going to go, my prediction was actually Sinners here, not because it also won the Actors Award for Best Ensemble, but it also, I believe, won the Casting Society Guild. So that was it. And I also love how obviously they have done like the 5 presenters thing they kind of did, like obviously with the acting categories 2 years ago, and then last year was costume design and cinematography. This year it was just for the inaugural year for casting, and having each of the 5 members, specific cast members from each film to do, obviously Paul Mescal, who was not nominated, representing Hamnet, Gwyneth Paltrow for Marty Supreme, Chase Infinity for One Battle After Another, Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent, and Delroy Lindo for Sinners. And when One Battle After Another won that, I was like, okay, I am good for that was great for me for my Best Picture prediction. I mean, I was predicting One Battle for Best Picture, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a great night for One Battle. And it obviously did start out strong, winning the casting award. And I kind of now would apologize for the sound right now, as we are going to be beginning a massive Pennsylvania storm, so which is also going to turn out the light to be a little bit more creepy. But anyways, so now let's get into probably the infamous category of the night, Best Live Action Short. Now, here's the thing. My original prediction before I did my final one was going to be for The Singers, because when I was looking that up, I decided to look up all the short films again during the final phase of the Oscar voting to see which one had better reviews. And The Singers was my initial pick. But then I changed it to Two People Exchanging Saliva. And so at the Awards Expert app, if you don't follow me at Brian Crowd, if you have not followed me, go to the download the Awards Expert app by Brother Bro, the Oscar expert at Bry Crowell. So I put Two People Exchanging Saliva at number 1 and The Singers at number 2. And then when Camille said it was a tie, I was shocked because here's the thing. I was almost thinking there could have been a tie, but I was thinking it would have been more likely for Best Picture, not for Best Live Action Short. And for the second time in this category, and this is the 7th tie ever in Oscars history. And before it was announced that, I was regretting not going with The Singers. And obviously they said this, Camille said The Singers first. And then I think if he was doing that in alphabetical order, that means Two People Exchanging Saliva got that. And because with me having The Singers at number 2 on the Awards Expert app with Two People Exchanging Saliva at number 1, technically that means I got it right because it did count it on the Awards Expert app. So that was kind of a little bit surprised. So technically I got Best Live Action Short correct on a technicality, courtesy through the app. So that is something, I guess. I was thinking if the result would have been like a 25 or something like that, because there were now 25 winners in this, but nope. Yeah, so 7th overall tie in the Oscars history, and the second time ever in Best Live Action Short, because this happened back in 1994, the year of movies, in the 95 ceremony, to be precise. So, yeah, and our first tie in the decade. And here's the thing. I think this tie is the biggest evidence, I would say, because obviously this is the first year that all the Academy members, if they want to do their participation in the final voting, they have to watch everything that is nominated for. This just not just counts the picture nominees, but everything the rest in the top 8 categories, to the animated, documentary, and international nominees, to everything in the text, and all the short films. I think this tie for Best Live Action Short is the biggest evidence, I would say, that there is a lot of Oscar voters that did watch everything. Because I think there were a lot of people that did love The Singers, and a lot of people loved Two People Exchanging Saliva more. So the fact that I think this is the biggest evidence, I think, of how the final Oscar voting has changed. I'm very curious how many Academy members actually did watch everything, and how many did PricewaterhouseCoopers did accepted the ballots, and how many members they did accepted, and how many they declined, because some of them have abstained for their lazy voting in some of the anonymous ones, but you can't really tell. But yeah, so if we do see like another tie in like another 2 years or so, if it's like for the short films again, then I can tell you that this voting is a little bit, you can tell everyone has watched all the short films, and so we'll see how it goes. And I love Conan O'Brien's joke, how he stated of the response of that tie that screwed a lot of people's predictions. Well, not really for me, though, if you go by the Awards Expert app. Anyways, let's get into supporting actor, and no shock after he won SAG and BAFTA. Sean Penn did win his 3rd Oscar for One Battle After Another, but of course, he wasn't there. Then into the screenplay ones. These were no shockers. Adapted screenplay, Paul Thomas Anderson finally wins his first Oscar, as well as Ryan Coogler in the original screenplay slot. So they both took home Oscars that same night. But then we get into probably, I would say, maybe the best moment in the Oscars history, and the one that really deserves the timing of the entire ceremony itself, and that is the In Memoriam. For many years, and almost for the past few years, they have screwed up a lot of times, especially the 2021. And sometimes it just feels like it's a joke, and they're just doing it for fun stakes instead of actually mourning. They finally nailed it. And I don't know if it's from the Academy or ABC, but this is the best In Memoriam the Oscars had in a long time. And doing big, massive tributes to specific celebrities. I know they did this like in the 2022 ceremony, but this one worked so well. Starting with the big, massive tribute to Rob Reiner, along with his wife, and then from Billy Crystal, and then Rachel McAdams' tribute to Catherine O'Hara and Diane Keaton, and then to Barbara Streisand's tribute to Robert Redford with a little performance of The Way We Were. We all knew this was going to be very heavy, and they did it phenomenally. It was paced well. I think this is how the In Memoriam should be like for future Oscars. Because yeah, this was a big year. We had lost so many big names in the industry since the last ceremony, and that's very unfortunate. So I think with the little testing they did with Morgan Freeman's tribute to Gene Hackman, I think they decided to influence that and put that for other big tributes as well for some of the big ones. So I'm very scared of who's going to be next because we do not know who will be leaving us. And I know for a fact soon, because we probably know soon in the near future or a decade or so, there will probably be big, massive tributes to Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg when we lose them in the near future or a few decade or so, or a few, because they are in, especially Scorsese, they are in their final years. And Jack Nicholson is another one that we could see a big, massive tribute to. So yeah. Yeah, but the Rob Reiner one really was fantastic. The Robert Redford one. I wish there would have been a little bit of one to Robert Duvall, because he was a longtime Oscar nominee and even a winner. So, but I do think this one was kind of fine. But yeah, perfect in memoriam. Probably one of the highlights of the ceremony. And then after a few minutes of mourning, we end up into production design and visual effects. Production design obviously went to Frankenstein, and visual effects went to Avatar: Fire and Ash. And no shock, Sigourney Weaver was happy. But throughout that time, it was kind of more of a promotion for the Mandalorian movie. Is it the Mandalorian Grogu, I believe? The only highlight about the movie, that presentation of the promotion for that film, is Sigourney Weaver calling Kate Hudson a bitch. that was pretty funny. I think that was probably the highlight of that whole promotion thing for Mandalorian and Grogu, is just calling Kate Hudson a bitch. Because I know a lot of people probably did not like her nomination for Silent Son Blue getting in, because everyone said that was the worst acting nomination, the weakest one of out of all the 20 acting nominations. And then, of course, Jimmy Kimmel comes in. I thought he was presenting Best Picture, but instead he's presenting the documentary categories. Documentary short did went to All the Empty Rooms, and it was also nice to actually see a moment where a mother of one of the child of the Uvalde shooting that took place in Uvalde, Texas, spoke that of how much she misses her daughter and stuff like that. And that was definitely a moment. And then Best Documentary Feature, I did predict this one correctly. I went with Mr. Nobody Against Putin after its BAFTA win, because The Perfect Neighbor was the supposed frontrunner, but it couldn't win anything in the main industry awards, except for the Indie Spirits. I mean, it lost the Director's Guild to 2,000 Meters to Andrivka, which was not nominated. It lost the Producer's Guild to My Mom Jane, which was not even shortlisted at the Oscars. And of course, it lost the BAFTA to Mr. Nobody Against Putin. So I had to go with Mr. Nobody because of the timing of the voting status, and the BAFTA win, I think, would have pulled it off. And it did. It was also Denmark's submission for Best International Feature. So if it was on the short list, I probably would have predicted Mr. Nobody Against Putin for the nomination for Documentary Feature. But I think that BAFTA win definitely pulled it off. So The Perfect Neighbor, the frontrunner, does not win. But then we come into probably my least favorite presenters of the night, the Bridesmaids reunion. I hate Bridesmaids. I did not like that movie. The only best things about Bridesmaids I like the best are Chris O'Dowd and the cinematography. I mean, Chris O'Dowd gave a fantastic performance. I don't know why he's not part of this reunion. And they did not deserve that standing ovation. I mean, some of the, okay, I understand Rose Byrne being there because she was nominated, but Maya Rudolph, Kristen Wiig, and I can understand Maya Rudolph is PTA's partner, I believe. I don't know if he's married still or not, but they're married or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, her and Kristen Wiig presenting what was in the 2020 Oscars, they were so cringy that I hated that so much. At least they weren't cringe this time, I will give them that. But yeah, I don't like that reunion. I think, yeah, because I just think Maya Rudolph's just not funny, nor Kristen Wiig or Melissa McCarthy. Ellie Kemper, not very familiar with their source material, but I would be very interested when I see If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, how Rose Byrne is. But they did present an original score and sound. Original score obviously went to Sinner, so Ludwig Göransson wins his third one, and second time this decade. We'll see him win next year for The Odyssey, people. And then sound obviously went to F1, the movie. And then, of course, our first British president of the Academy, Lynn Howard Taylor, had did a little speech about the Academy and a little announcement of the Marilyn Monroe exhibit at the Academy Museum that's going to be coming. So that's pretty interesting. And then the father and son of Bill and Liz Pullman, Lewis Pullman, excuse me, presented film editing to One Battle After Another. And then after showing up in the Rob Reiner tribute, Demi Moore came out to present cinematography, which went to Sinners. I had One Battle After Another here after its BAFTA win, because I believe, if I'm correct, Sinners did win the Cinematographers Guild, but that happened after Oscar voting closed. So I thought the voting was a bit too late for that film. And I was also worried about Train Dreams also potentially taking it, but nope, it ended up going to Sinners, and the narrative did happen. Autumn Durald Archipel, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name correctly. She becomes the first woman to ever win cinematography, and that's pretty amazing, to be precise. And I love the moment when she was looking for her kid and Ryan Coogler just brings her son down to her seat. That was just to see his mother winning. That's a nice moment for Ryan Coogler to do. That just shows he really cares about his cast and crew members of the film. So that was a very nice moment right there, but also a pretty historic one. Like, we were thinking about it, but the problem is she was not winning at, like, she lost the Critics' Choice and she lost the BAFTA. And the Cinematographer's Guild, of course, happened after Oscar voting closed. So the fact that she managed to win that without losing those two awards after Oscar voting ended, that's kind of a nice thing. And that also kind of does show that another continuation of maybe some voters saw everything that was nominated for. And that Best International Feature from Javier Bardem and Priyanka Chopra, and Bardem kind of probably poked a nod to the BAFTAs for what that and the BBC did about Palestine, so that was something. It was the battle between the two picture nominees, and I was correct on this one. Sentimental Value took away with this one, because I stated this in my other predictions. I stated the reason I went with it, not because it was a stronger Best Picture candidate, but Norway had never won the category, and it finally has done it. So Jochen Trier got at least to speak, even though this is not his Oscar. I still don't understand why the Oscars are given to the country and not the directors and the producers. That's still something. And then, I didn't mention these, but when I saw the lineup, I was like, why is this category being presented so late? Because they're only doing 2 of the songs, right? And ABC just thinks this is more important than any other category, like, outside of the top 4. And that's Best Original Song, which obviously went to Golding for K-Pop Demon Hunters, with Lionel Richie presenting that in the 40th anniversary of his Oscar win. But, yeah, a lot of people are talking about the speeches being cut off, and there was not just this moment, but a couple of other moments happen, and I don't know if this is like an ABC thing or, and the fact that, and you can even hear booings when they were going to commercial break. So yeah, that's kind of a shame on the Academy and ABC for doing that. Trying to cut out speeches. Like, once they move on to YouTube, man, they're going to have a lot more creative freedom without ABC on their minds. But yeah, I could almost see the Academy discontinue Original Song, because this feels more like an ABC thing. But yes, since they only did I Lied to You and Golden, which honestly, I have to really see more of, like, the actual Sinners, of how it actually works well in the context, because they did recreate that scene. And then Golden, honestly, that performance was very underwhelming. I probably prefer the Macy's Parade performance over that. So if you want to know where that is in the ranking, you can check out my parade ranking of last year's parade songs from the 2025 parade, despite being a special performance. But yeah, Golden obviously won this one. And a little known fact about K-Pop Demon Hunters, it becomes the first non-Disney animated film to win 2 Oscars. So that's pretty historic for Sony Pictures Animation to do that. And then the top 4, Robert Pattinson and Zendaya comes out. I think this was a little bit of a surprise one. Not just the promotion for their new movie coming out, but Zendaya's now married to Tom Holland, as we know. This was Paul Thomas Anderson, regardless, so that was something. And then Adrian Brody, kind of a little bit of a joke from his Best Actor speech last year. after a little bit of a tense last-minute battle after what happened at the Actors Awards, I went with Michael B. Jordan after the Actors Award and the timing of the voting, because the thing is, Chalamet lost the BAFTA. He obviously lost the Actors Award. And I was correct. Michael B. Jordan did took the win. And we just saw what's been going on throughout trending when we woke up this morning of him celebrating his Oscars at In-N-Out Burger. That's not the first time he has done that. The team from Flow, which won an animated feature last year, they celebrated at In-N-Out Burger last year as well. And Paul Giamatti even congratulated them. I wonder if Giamatti would do that, congratulate Michael B. Jordan for doing that as well, because I think Giamatti did In-N-Out after he won the Globe for The Holdovers, so that is something. So that is pretty unique. So going to In-N-Out Burger as your Oscar celebration, that's pretty unique, to say the least. I mean, how many people were ecstatic to be there? But yeah, Michael B. Jordan obviously mentioned all of the previous African-American actors that have won in the leading acting categories, including Will Smith, who is now 6 years left until when he is allowed to be back into the Academy again. So yeah, Michael B. Jordan obviously took to win. A lot of people think it would be Chalamet's words, but I think it was the BAFTA lost to somebody who was not even nominated or might even qualify for next year's Oscars, because there is a possibility, I swear, would be eligible for the American Awards next year, because it's late American release is not till late April. That could be something for Robert Amario to get in next year for Best Actor and maybe original screenplay or something like that. But with him losing BAFTA, Chalamet specifically losing him, that and the Actors Award, and with Marty Supreme not winning anywhere else, yeah, he probably might have been second or third, because there probably would have been a lot of number one votes to Wagner Moura. And then Mikey Madison presented Best Actress. Obviously, she had a little reunion with Emily Stone, of course, last year, a little off camera, because, of course, Stone gave Madison her Oscar, and now this was inevitable. Jessie Buckley took this one. I don't understand, like, why would Best Actress be the second to last one? Because we already knew this was going to be hers. Like, couldn't they done it, like, after Original Song and do Director and Actor? Because Actor was more the intense one that we were looking at. But yeah, Buckley, obviously the performance of the year, many people stated, that was pretty obvious. And then, the thing about it is with the next one for Best Picture, honestly, Nicole Kidman has been a very boring choice to go with the Oscars. It's almost like her and Halle Berry almost present almost every 2 or 3 years or so. And I don't know what big things Kidman did last year or something like that, but I thought she was going to do it on her own, but when they said her and Ewan McGregor, I did not know there was a Moulin Rouge reunion. And that was something I loved. I love that Moulin Rouge reunion. Although I would have loved to see something for like more of an honoring of a bigger movie anniversary, like a Best Picture winner or something like that. But I will credit Paul Thomas Anderson, when One Battle After Another won Best Picture, of crediting all the Best Picture nominees that were nominated 50 years ago. Barry Lyndon, Dog Day Afternoon, Jaws, Nashville, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, as many people consider that one of the best Oscar lineups, Best Picture lineups in the Academy's history. And that was a pretty nice homage. He did that. So yeah, One Battle After Another obviously did win Best Picture, of course, and I got that correct. So overall, my final result, if you do count that tie, because I had the singer as a number 2 on the Awards Expert app, I got 20 out of 24. Definitely a little bit better than last year. I was a little bit more confident in some of these. And so yeah, that was pretty nice. And then obviously the post, my thoughts on the post Conan thing, after the last thing of the closing thing of him almost having an office and then replacing the name. I get the joke originally. I kind of understand now because of the transition that the Academy will go from ABC to YouTube in about 2 years. All I would just say is, don't have Mr. Beast host the Oscars, please, because if he does, I'm not watching the show because he's overrated. So yeah, don't let Mr. Beast host the Oscars. Don't have a big YouTube personality that no movie experience. I know Markiplier. I heard he was there, because probably because Iron Lund is not going to be an Oscar player at all, so they just probably want him there just so he can have at least one experience, I guess. I get that part, but yeah, don't let Mr. Beast host the Oscars. Don't do that stupid joke, okay? If they do that, I'm not going to watch the show. So now that actually officially recaps the Oscars. Now, one thing, of course, that obviously has occurred specifically, every time after when the Oscars come to an end, the movie awards season, I go into an Oscar movie marathon where I look at all the 10 picture nominees, the rest of the films in the top 8 categories, all the animated, documentary, and international nominees, and at least one or two bonus film in the technical categories, which this year is Avatar, Fire, and Ash. It would take me about almost, I think, 27 days from what I'm counting correctly. So almost about a month. So that would make me have a month off of YouTube and then do a personal lineup on watching all 27 films in a specific order leading up to all the 10 picture nominees, with one battle at my number one slot. Well, no, one battle used to be as the last one specifically. Saving the best for last and see if I agree with the Academy or not. Because ever since the whole Best Picture incident that occurred, soon it will be 10 years if we go by the year 2026, by next year's Oscars. I promise not to watch any Oscar-nominated movies until after the ceremony, because you would be pissed off if another Best Picture incident occurred that your favorite does not win. So, because La La Land was my favorite of the 9 after I saw the Oscars that year, and I would have been pissed off of that. So, that's the reason why I always save it after the Oscar season comes to an end. Watch all the movies when they're all available digitally and streaming platforms. But it would take like about a month or so, because you have to wait on some of the documentary and international ones specifically to be available. So yeah, so expect that. But I will, even though that personal lineup for 2025 won't happen for at least a while, I actually have completed my personal Oscar lineups for the 2000s. So from 2000 through 2009. So be on the lookout for those videos coming pretty soon, when I kind of get a little bit motivated again to after recovering from this cold. But I think that kind of recaps my thoughts on the Oscars themselves. My first one, and probably my only time I would. I might do this again next year, but we'll see where we're gonna be. But join me next time when I come back in the end of August for my first round of the Oscar predictions for 2027. Some people start immediately after. I wait till August.